Breaking news on this Tuesday afternoon. The Hawkeyes have seemingly added the odds-on favorite to start at quarterback in 2025. South Dakota State Jackrabbit transfer Mark Granowski has announced he is headed to Iowa. We'll talk about it in just a second, but first, as always, want to thank our fine sponsors down in Bondurant. Iowa floor covering, Brian, Tyler, and Brian, they all make it happen here at From the Hawkeye of the Storm. There to thank for this video and so much of our content. Be sure you give them a call for your next DIY flooring project or just a bathroom project, flooring project that you've got a contractor doing. You get great advice and great direction from the guys down at IFC in Bondurant. Call them at 515-379-7000 or visit iowafloorcovering.com. So the news that just broke here just moments ago as I am recording this video, former South Dakota State Jackrabbit quarterback Mark Granowski has committed to Iowa. We talked about his visit over the weekend. Iowa was able to lure him in, even though it sounded like Granowski was really entertaining NFL draft prospects for the 2025 draft coming up in April. And he had been at South Dakota State for 5 years, so this will be year number 6 for Mark. I reviewed some of his background on that video when we talked about his visit. So if you missed any of that, you can certainly go back and watch this video. I'll kind of give you the cliff notes of what I talked about during that video real quick, and then kind of give my thoughts on what this means moving forward for Iowa, not only as it relates to the passing game, but also as it relates to potential NIL impact here. Certainly there's that. So first of all, one thing to note, he is from an area of suburban Chicago near Naperville, very close to where Tim Lester grew up. So you kind of see the similarities between Mark Granowski and Hank Brown. They were both near the same area that was the hometown of Tim Lester. So there's a connection there. Mark Granowski's dad, Ray Granowski, was a quarterback at Drake back in the 80s. Was a very good quarterback at Drake. And his head coach, Mark Granowski's head coach at South Dakota State, Jimmy Rogers, went to Washington State here just a few weeks ago. A lot of players who followed him out there. It sounded like there was some interest from Wazoo in bringing him to Washington to play for the Cougars. That did not happen. There was also a little bit of scuttle about Northwestern maybe being interested. They did land his favorite receiver, Griffin Wilde from South Dakota State, but ultimately Northwestern already had a quarterback transfer in Preston Stone, and my guess is that they threw over some cash for Preston Stone, who was really productive at SMU. Granowski's a 2-time national champion. He's also a 2-time Missouri Valley Conference Offensive Player of the Year. He won the Walter Payton Award for top FCS Offensive Player in 2023. He was a finalist this year. That award is very similar to the Heisman Trophy in the FBS, or the Maxwell Award, if you will. He was recruited by Tim Lester out of high school when Tim was at Western Michigan. Iowa also recruited him. Ultimately, he headed to South Dakota State for a full scholarship and was really, really productive. Has good legs, has totaled over 10,000 career passing yards in 4 seasons played. He did tear an ACL at the end of his true freshman season, but he played as a true freshman and he was phenomenal. Won that Missouri Valley Conference Offensive Player of the Year award. Did not play in fall of 2021, which would have been his second season. That 2020 truncated season that was actually played in the FCS in the spring of 21 did not count. So basically those 2 seasons did not count with the red shirt, medical red shirt. So this will be year number 4 of actually countable football, but year 5 of Granowski playing on the field. He's got 130 total touchdowns and he's rushed for over 1,700 yards. He's got good legs. He's not as elusive as maybe a guy like CJ Beathard or certainly Brendan Sullivan, but I do believe he's got a better arm. He's got a bigger arm. He's built a little bit bigger than a Sullivan is. Sullivan's what, 6'4", 6'5". Mark Granowski, not quite that tall, but he brings it from a physical standpoint, and dude is just a winner. I know there's going to be some fear that, you know, you're getting a guy from an FCS blue blood. Iowa tried to do that at the FBS level with Cade McNamara, who was successful at Michigan and certainly helped them to a Big Ten championship win and a college football playoff berth, but a different situation here for Mark. Again, the mobility stands out, the lack of extensive injury history, unlike Cade McNamara. I know Granowski's had an ACL tear, but I'm not concerned about it because he's had a lot of time to prove himself on the field since that injury. And it's going to be a hit for Iowa's NIL funding. What Iowa's actually paying this kid to come here, who knows? My guess, it's 7 figures. That's my guess. But I have not had a conversation with anybody, and that's not going to be open out in the public information for people to feed on. There's going to be speculation on this, but it will impact Iowa's ability, I would think, to go after other players in the portal, right? There was talk about Griffin Wilde maybe coming as a package deal with Granowski. That's not happening. Wilde's headed to Northwestern. You've also got a kid from William and Mary, terrific cornerback at the FCS level. He's probably going to deserve some cash wherever he ends up. He's wanted by a lot of high major schools, and Iowa would like to add somebody in the portal, I would think, along that offensive line. They've already added somebody, a couple people along the defensive line, but this is just massive news. He is the odds-on favorite to win this job. Certainly in no way do I believe Iowa's assured him that he's going to be the starter, but there has to be reason for him to feel very good heading into spring with what Iowa has struggled with at quarterback. And really, it's a battle between he, Brendan Sullivan, and maybe Jackson Stratton, Jimmy Sullivan. Jimmy Sullivan got there for bowl prep, but he's going to be a true freshman. Jackson Stratton's still a walk-on. You get Ryan Fitzgerald, the son of Pat Fitzgerald, who's coming in as a walk-on as well. This is not a loaded room, and you lost Marco Lainez, you lost Cade McNamara, and you lost James Rezar to the portal. So it's a wide-open race for Mark Granowski. He's the odds-on favorite to win this. He's got 1 year of eligibility remaining. And with the exception being the impact on the NIL availability, the money availability for the collective, one would have to think this is an attractive piece for other transfers on offense, specifically at receiver and along that offensive line. Iowa already got Logan Jones back at center. That had to help the case as well. But this is just huge news, and this is kind of just an instant reaction to where I'm standing on this Mark Granowski news. We thought this was coming, but we thought it was coming a couple days ago. It didn't. Finally broke here late Tuesday afternoon as Mark Granowski officially tweets out that he is a Hawkeye. Massive, massive, massive. We'll be talking with Mark Rogers. By the time this is out, I'll be live with Mark Rogers over at Iowa Football at the Voice of College Football. We'll also talk to Don Patterson later in the week. Stay tuned. Get all your Hawkeye information right here. We'll keep you updated on the latest here from the Hawkeye of the Storm.